Oh, my stomach. All of a sudden, I'm famished. I didn't eat poorly. I had eggs on toast and cheese. Finished off the cheese. Sharp cheddar. Down the hatch. Yeah. You see the mountains? The other day, smoke from nearby fires almost hid them, but not quite. Not like before. Ain't that how it is? There's always something. Like Tommy Lee Jones's character said in Men in Black, there's always a death ray or a global plague or a black hole or something ready to wipe everything out. He was right about that. Whew. He was also right in the carriage of his thinking. Not an expression. I think he might have been a little harsh on Will Smith's character in that moment. Will Smith was freaking out. Tommy Lee Jones was like, yeah, man, this is always happening. So calm down. We don't have nothing to work with, so let's collect ourselves and come at it. Can't just despair or freak out right now. Act rashly. We have the time. I like that. I like that. Anyway, so I was quite happy to hear warriors on the trail talk of their journeys while I was folding clothes, taking a hot red pill, or if you're Michael Malice, a white one, and just sussing myself out. That's what it came down to. Taking a little, what's the word for it? Taking a little inventory. Taking stock of my emotional bandwidth or the emotional resonance of the moment. What am I a match to right now? If I go out into the world to try to do anything, what's gonna tend to come to me? And I thought, wow, well, clearly I'm motivated. Clearly I did a whole bunch of stuff in my own best interest. But also there's fear. I've been doing a bit more inner work than usual on paper. Today, the exercises, which have added to my lengthening morning practices, today's exercises of inner work were especially challenging. Not in a way that I didn't want to do it. In fact, I was rip-roaring ready to go, and I really tackled it with integrity. But it brought up material. And I praised the integrity of my commitments while I was working in previous employment to the previous employment. And I came up with a statement. This is after the inner work. I came up with a statement. I wonder if I can remember it. It's a summary of my assessment of that integrity level. Because I've taken a fair amount of days off. A lot of us in my industry do. One reason why the call-outs are so high is because the workforce in the retail industry is often a little younger, or often a little bit more less trained, or less robust in terms of emotional management and all sorts of things. There's a lot of reasons, and a lot of us just aren't at a point in our lives where things are that stable yet. I was thinking about the last few years at that job, and the one before, and I thought to myself, okay, when I was there, I was definitely there, and I put forward a good effort. I can say that. That's beautiful. I put significant effort in on good days, on bad days, on days when everything seemed to just do itself. I was proficient. I did good. But again, I was just assessing, and I had that little, like, when I was there, I did good. That was the statement. But then, of course, what I just said as well followed, which was, yeah, but I wasn't there all the time. For like a half a year during one of those years, I was part-time at that one job. Because that's how much it rubbed me the wrong way. Jesus, you hear it, guy? You know the memes go both ways. That's the only way that I can talk about it. The memes go both ways. If you're on social media long enough, you'll see memes of people who have been in physical danger for long periods of time as a result of their jobs. And they're poking fun at us soft-hearted little snowflakes in the retail industry, the civilian sector, in the office, you know. And you'll get the other memes too. And they're not wrong either. Which are, I remember one. That was quite nice. We should probably start heading back, huh? Yeah. Yep. I want to lift weights later. Want to have some gas in the tank. God damn it, I'm going straight. Jesus Christ. Home's that way, fucker. Okay. Alright. Well. Haru, the great white ninja, said, I will know, I will do. I am one with the universe. Socrates once told Dan Millman, knowledge was overrated. Then he asked Dan if he knew how to... They were washing somebody's car at a gas station at this time. Socrates is like, hey, Dan, you know how to wipe a windshield, right? Dan's like, yeah. Socrates throws him the squeegee. He's like, wisdom is doing it. Who said it better? Anyway, to point back to the meme, the Office cited memes that are like, oh yeah, this is where the real danger is. It's not. Not in the same way, anyway. The meme was a stick figure guy with like a cigarette in his mouth is getting passed by a couple of folks on a walk. And one of them says to the other, man, that guy looks like he's seen some shit. And the stick figure who that was sitting there smoking a cigarette turns his head and he's like, yeah. And they turn back at him. And the next panel pans up real close on the stick figure's face, where it's got all these lines and wrinkles. You know how they'll Ren and Stimpy, that kind of thing, and just give you way more expression or character or texture in somebody's expression at a wide angle, way up close, way closer than you want to be. They did that to this guy's face, and he's just all weathered and haggard and shit. Red eyes and brown teeth and stress veins. And he's like, I worked retail. And they're just like, ooh. It's just a different kind of thing. I never had the gall to ask any of the veterans I used to work with how they felt about it. I knew a couple of them. I still know a couple of them. I might ask, what are the similar challenges in these different fields? What are some, besides the most obvious, differences? What did you take from both experiences? Of course, we could just ask Jocko. He's got a podcast and he's more than willing to talk about it. One thing I love about him, he doesn't shy away from that kind of talk. Anyway, I've been quoting a lot of people. And I've been treating things in polar terms. I've been using dualistic language. Red pill, freedom. Blue pill, subservience to the narrative of the forces that be around you. I've been using, I opposed the labor force at home with the armed forces, as if they're opposite kinds of people. We're all just people. There's a lot of nuance there. How many people go off to war and learn that they're poets, or learn that they're really into music? They get out and they learn they have a skill. They learn that they want this and that. How many folks live in these insulated little existences only to climb to action when the time calls and the fire's at the door and the wolves are in the street? There's a lot of crossover. Humanity is so united on so many levels we refuse to see. That's why I said a few episodes ago how profound it was for me just to have the coherent thought. We need to treat each other better and ourselves. It's so good. It's so good. I don't remember. Did I come up with that? Or did I hear about it from somewhere? I probably heard about it from somewhere. There's some really smart, cool people out there. I'm listening to some of them. Anyway. Suffice to say, I notice in the language that I use, in the topics that I choose, in the way that I carry my body through these strides, I notice I'm sitting in here and I'm listening. Some of what's coming out I'm sharing. That's the podcast. If I didn't say it overtly before, I wanted to talk about the constriction aspect a bit, and just to say that I noticed there was a lot of constriction today. There was a lot of close up. Or rather, it's not that I did anything particularly in closing. Actually, it was more the opposite. Sometimes you start in a different direction than the one you've been walking, and the scenery changes so quickly. You think, you look back and you rub your temples, you're like, what? The hell did I come from? Good Lord, that's where I was? I was always one turn from this? How many times did I not take this turn that I just blindly did laps around the track of my own habits? Particularly the problematic ones. The unconscious, non-productive ones. Ugh. I can tell you one thing I'm good at. I'm a pretty conscientious goof-off. I'm pretty good at owning it when I'm like, yep, I ain't doing it. It's just kind of like the same way that I own it when I am doing it. Except, you get days like today when I move the needle a little bit more than usual. A lot of unsatisfying conversations. A lot of things were a little bit different than I thought, which were different again than I thought they would be a week ago. And they'll be different again next week. That's just going to keep happening. Some things will tie up in nice little bows. Mostly, though, solutions are ongoing solutions. Troubleshooting with the big irons, with stakes, is the way that we need to be rolling through these things. And I did. Then I looked back and I was like, fudge. So raw. So I'm putting a couple hours here and a few hours there into paradigm shifting. My life. Every time it feels weird. And I started. What was I trying to say? Honestly, I've really just been wrapping my way around these experiences. No one point I'm making is that clear, I'm aware. I keep trying to be concise, but the road leads and the dude abides, as they say. The royal they. Which in this instance is you and me. We. So there I was. This morning. Gearing up, making calls, calling stuff out. Calling shots, taking swings. And doing okay with it all. Come to find, when I sat down to eat my breakfast, I began to notice, oh, that's a blister. Oh yeah. Gentlemen, we've got a blister online. Oh yeah, it's wet. Did it pop? Ooh yeah, it's wet. Little wet. Squidgy. It's very squidgy. So I sat down, got my eggs on toast, Tabasco hot sauce, and a couple of last night's fries, and some cheese. And I got water, and it's a happy day. And I notice my body is so stiff. And then my thoughts go to earlier this morning, the wee hours. I was awoken by the bladder for the 5th time that night. Go back to bed. Can't go back to bed. Why? Because my legs won't stop twitching. So, 2 days of stretching the last couple of weeks have not availed me of my leg tension. I was breathing with them. I was like, hey, bruh, I see you, man. I know. Ugh. You're tired. And we're not properly resting. We're not properly recovering. Yeah. Oh yeah, and a foot bath. I took a foot bath last week with Epsom salt for the first time. Felt good. Felt pretty good. They said your feet get dry afterwards. My feet didn't really get that dry. Anyway, so yeah, my legs were in pain. My legs were sore. And if I moved my ankles or my feet or whatever too fast, they'd threaten to cramp, which is basically an everyday early morning condition for me, for a lot of parts of my body. But especially anywhere that I'm already stiff. So there I was, exhausted, stiff legs. I would not stop twanging the giant whatever it is. Is it my IT band? It might be. Is it a giant cord on the outside of my right thigh, just twanging like Georgia Weber slings her double bass. Just, and I'm like, yeah, doesn't hurt. It's just not relaxed. It's certainly not pleasant either. And then it's still for a little while, then it comes back. And such is my relationship with my own emotional resilience. As soon as anything's out of alignment, other parts are like, hey boys, looks like we're getting up and having a party. Get the jugs, get the hay bales. It's time to get toe tapping and hobnogging. Neither of those were words. I don't care. There's gold in them hills, boy. So, a chorus of signals from all of my joints, my lower body, some faster, some slower, all of them changing moment to moment until finally it's past 7 and I realize I'm not gonna make it back into slumberland, baby doll. There's a party in my own head. No amount of brooming up against the attic is keeping it down. So, I did the Wim Hof breathing and began my day. Anyway. You know, one thing about Quentin Tarantino's filmmaking you gotta respect is the narrative, not narrativeness of some of his films. I was just thinking about Pulp Fiction. I tell stories out of order and get to things in my life out of order. It feels like I'm living my life out of order. Going backwards, hopping from time to time. Perhaps in time, practiced journeying and discernment will render the illusion vanquished. We get to see that that's just how adventure is. It's not about clean pictures. Well, if it's not about clean pictures and nice, tidy little snapshots, what the hell is it all about? I like to think it's all about rock and roll. What do you think? I still haven't stopped thinking about Gandalf. It's been weeks since we talked about him. The other day I was journaling. Oh, it's good to breathe, I'll tell you that much. The other day I was journaling. And, oh yeah, that friggin' is a balloon of fluid. Oh, so there's a needle in my right foot inner thumb-toe knuckle. Whew, but it's only there sometimes. It's probably gonna look like a tiny little red mark when I get back home. Anyway, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about all the times when I felt so satisfied as a kid that I got to have little Kevin James moments with Gandalf and the boys off on their adventures. There'd be times when the hobbits were frolicking around merrily and they were drinking mead, learning about how certain fluids come in pints. Ooh, I'll take this way. Haha. Dancing around. I remembered Gandalf smoking his pipe late into the night in some scenes of The Fellowship of the Ring, which was my favorite of the three. Movies, that is. And the book, actually. I thought about here, there, and yonder in the book were these scenes where they took the time to show you that there's breaks in the action. But for me, when I was much younger, these movies were still rolling out. I must have seen Fellowship a zillion times. It was basically a part of what would have become a personal media library that I don't have, really. But if I was going to grow one of DVDs and stuff, that would have been one of the cornerstones. Fellowship of the Ring. And all these moments, all these times. It's even better in the books. You see these characters smoking and drinking. Smoking and drinking, old world style. In good times and bad. I remember these moments, and I would be smoking too. I'd be drinking too. And I'd feel so like, wow, we really are all the same, aren't we? And wow, what a great moment. We're all just partying together, aren't we? Of course, then the hobbits went to go fight giant spiders. And Gandalf died and came back. My boy. Lightning shooting motherfucker. Love ya. Bring it in. I thought to myself, there's ways in which I'm like these people. They like to party, I like to party. And as an adult, I'm like, no. There's just different people. We all share a lot of things, but I ain't no Gandalf. I don't want to be. So this question I've had in my writings and in my time has turned. The writings were, if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, what if Gandalf was in me and he was telling me, he was guiding me? What would he say? How would he do it? How would Gandalf look in the contemporary world? And I thought, well, I kind of know examples of people who have gone to similar places and fought all kinds of different battles, but also had recreational spirit. People who were a part of big things and did their own things and everything in between. Some of those folks even seem to push the limits of what a human being seems to be in the zeitgeist, in the story. Even the blue pill has to bow down at a certain point and say, hey, okay, there's outliers. But it changed from what would Gandalf do or advise to what would that force, that special whatever thing in that character that I am so attuned to and so inspired by and in awe of, at essence, that special certain something. As I see it, not as anybody else sees it, but as I see it, then what's the advice? Then what's the move? What do I want to learn? Where do I want to go? And see. What do I want to see? What kind of talk do I want to have? Where's the drinks? Where's the ease? And where's the battle? It's been made apparent to me by the strata of the human temperament for work of different kinds. That in some ways my temperament is very brittle and fragile. In other ways, my temperament is pretty lofty. I don't know the limits. Or I just keep growing them. Like right now. On this run. It was going to be 45 minutes or an hour. I don't know how long we've been doing this, but we got at least 20 ahead of us. Probably closer to 30. Time check. Still recording. 1:03. All right. Riding on the trail. Riding on the old trail. I had a pretty funny image in my head before it got to the last point of what does that essence in me speak? What does it say? And I was thinking about how Gandalf might operate in today's world. I had a funny image. He'd still know how to sword fight. But his knowledge of fireworks would be way more extensive. He'd probably understand rocket physics pretty well. Probably pretty well versed in most of the math of our time. He'd probably know a fair bit about sacred geometry. He'd probably be pretty close to Randall Carlson. It's quite nice we get to have anything like a parallel to that force in our world. I don't know how militant Randall Carlson is, though. I don't know if he was ever in the army or fought a battle with a gun or a sword. I hope not, because ideally he doesn't have to, because there's other folks who are willing to do it, like a volunteer army, for instance. But you gotta wonder. Gandalf definitely knows how guns work. Contemporary Gandalf, definitely. In fact, everybody on the Lord of the Rings team, throughout the journey to Mordor, or wherever that is in this world, they'd be all learning about guns, disassembling them, reassembling them, learning how to oil things properly and clean parts. How to shoot and how not to shoot. In Hobbiton, there's only BB guns. And zip guns.